Screen share off. Hello, 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 everyone. This is Dr. David Snyder checking in with you. Welcome to Secrets of Human Influence. I'm glad you're here. So today's webinar is going to cover something that's not really talked about a lot in persuasion and influence. Let me ask you guys a question really quick. Have you ever been in a situation with somebody and you said everything right and they still said no? You told them everything they wanted to hear, what you thought they wanted to hear, but they still said no. If that's ever happened to you, type that happened to me or that's me in the chat. Now, why do I ask that question? Because the topic of tonight's webinar, some people might consider a non-topic or even an advanced topic, but it's probably one of the single most important factors you can understand about persuasion and influence. Influence does not happen when the language starts. It doesn't happen with words. Now I know that some of you are like, what? You mean I can't just say these magic hypnotic language patterns and influence will happen? No. There's something else that has to be in place first before you can actually deploy the words so that they have the maximum impact. Now, I'm not saying that words aren't important. What I'm saying is that the timing in which you deploy those words, the environment in which you plant those seeds is the most important part. So it's a lot of times, if you've ever said all the right things, done the right things, and they still said no, it probably wasn't what you were saying. It was probably when you were saying it and the identity state or the ego state that person was in when you said it. Okay. So I do have some notes here because, again, this is a topic that is going to be what I call in my systems, we call this pre-encounter influence. And it works very, very powerfully with this idea that you can own the best seeds grow in the best soil. And what I mean by that is if the person that you are seeking to influence or persuade is not in the right state, if they're not in a place where they're ready and willing to hear your words, then they're not going to respond to it. They're going to reject it outright. So again, if you've ever felt like you said the right thing and it still didn't work, type that in the chat. It's not because you were weak. It's not because what you were offering or what you were saying didn't have value or meaning or even unethical. You were simply deploying it at the wrong time. Okay, so let me just look at my chat really quick here. Oh, you guys like the background? Thank you. All right. Um, so how many, just as a quick aside, how many brand new folks do we have uh, joining us today? How many this is your first time in the wonderful world of Planet David? If you're brand new, type brand new in the chat, first time. If you're a veteran of Planet David, if you've been watching our stuff for a while, then oh, there's Casey. Awesome. There's Lakshay. Excellent. Welcome to Planet David. We're going to have some fun today. My goal today for you is to leave with the most powerful tools imaginable and a pathway to become the most ethical but unstoppably influential human being that is possible. Okay, there's Edie and Lily and Paul and Keith. Right on. There's Theory. I hope I pronounced that right. Or is it Thierry? There's Ken and Keith. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. So think of a conversation that you've had, right? You handled the objection well, you explained everything clearly, and yet the longer you talk, see if this ever happened. The longer you talk, it seems the further away you're getting. It seems like there's just these little walls that are just kind of going up, right? Or if you've ever talked to somebody and you're showing them exactly what they want, it's like you're throwing pebbles against a brick wall, hoping one of them sticks, and they just keep bouncing back. That's something you've experienced. Go ahead and type that in the chat. Influence doesn't collapse because of what you said. It collapses because of something that happened sometimes nanoseconds or even minutes prior to the words coming out of your mouth. And one of the things that we know now from our neuroscience studies, and I can quote some for you if you like later on, people don't make decisions in the moment, at least not the moment you think. By the time the words are coming out of their mouth, it's already too late in many cases. Why? Because the human body makes decisions based on feelings, and then it justifies those behaviors or those decisions with rationalizations and words. So if you've ever found yourself in a position where you thought you're doing the right thing and the person still said no, and the more you tried to overcome their objections, the more the walls went up, this is probably a good place for you to spend some time today. Um, Over the course of my life, I've had the opportunity to study with some of the very best people. I've had access to some of the very best research, and I've had the opportunity to field test a lot of things. And one of the things that we know now is that everything human beings do is in response to a feeling. It's either a feeling they want more of or the feeling they want a whole lot less of. Okay. If you can generate the body state in people, if you can give them the feelings they need to have, then everything becomes exponentially easier. But there's a timing element involved in this, right? And the more you understand temporal influence, chronological influence, when to do certain things at certain times, the more powerful and effortless your other tools become, right? The big and even in spite of the things I'm going to teach you today, the biggest leveraging point in ethical influence of any kind, really, but of specifically an ethical influence is going to be the body state or the feeling states of the people that you're seeking to interact with. Remember that by the time somebody's voiced an objection, they've already made a decision. They've already built a rationalization. So here's the first rule. Aside from this rule, everything human beings do is in response to a feeling. There's a second rule that I want you to write down and understand. I'm going to say it 3 times. That's our SOP for our trainings. Is if there's something that I think you really need to remember and really need to take away from the webinar today, I will say it 3 times. So you have time to write it down, but so your brain gets it 3 times, which is the neurological number necessary for the vast majority of people to grab a hold of a piece of information and retain it. My job for you for this webinar is to take you as far as I can into the world of persuasion and influence that we can in the time that we have, and I will point you in the direction to take your training further, to go further. Is that a fair trade? If I can show you some very powerful, very easy ways to begin exerting influence without feeling creepy or slimy or sleazy or whatever it is, words that we tend to associate with those kind of things. Would that be fair? If you think that's fair, type that in the chat. Cool. I'm going to do a quick shout out to my brothers and sisters in YouTube land. There's Jeremy and there's Ken. All right. We got a lot of yeses. I like that. There's Lottie out in YouTube land and Raven and Ash. Is it Ash Lucia? Ashley Lucia. Lucia Ash probably is what it is. All right. I'm just going to look here. There's Mark Smallwood out of the UK and Champions Only. Awesome. Thank you guys for showing up. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day. I'm going to give you the best stuff I can in the shortest amount of time possible, and I'm going to point you in the direction to take your training further. Okay? So, yes, we could talk about language patterns. Yes, we could talk about emotional values and needs, which we talk a lot about in our webinars. And don't get me wrong, they're really, really important. But if the person isn't even willing to listen to you in the first place, if they've stopped listening before you've even started speaking, it's an uphill battle. So how do we as influencers, how do we as persuaders, ethical ones, mind you, how do we stack the deck in our favor? Well, this is not common knowledge, and I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to say much beyond it because I have to sign an NDA and stuff like that. I was contracted by one of the largest accounting firms in the world to develop a system of nonverbal influence specifically for their associates. And so I dove deep into the understanding of nonverbal communication, decision making, trust, studies, things of that nature. And I came out with some amazing experiments. We put a really powerful program together, right? Um, Part of what I'm going to be sharing with you today is derived from that very uh, expensive program to do. And it involves an aspect of timing that is not largely words. It's not largely based on your language, but it is based on who you are and how you can prime another human being to be open to your influence, right? So when I was going through my nonverbal research, one of the things I discovered is what I call the 7-second window. From the time you and we broke this into a map, and I'll show you the map a little bit of the map. I can't show you too much, but I'll show you what this looks like really quick. Um, so pardon me while I make this picture bigger. All right. So the section we're going to talk about today is what we call the pre-encounter session. So this is all the information or what you do before you actually get face to face with a client, right? We want to do a very deep dive into what we know about the person. We want to maximize visual appeal. We want to control our state. We want to have our inner game, our sense of identity in alignment with what? This. And we want to be able to control environment and spatial relationships if we can. Now, obviously, we don't have time to do all of this today, but I want you to, so we're going to drill down a little bit on target intelligence, and we're going to talk a little bit about inner game and state control, and a little bit about visual appeal. I cannot send this document out. I can show it to you, but I can't send it. So if you guys want to take a screenshot, I can't stop you from doing that. Okay. So let's go through this really quick. And then I want to give you guys some experiences, if I can, that demonstrate some of the power of the pre-encounter or notice there's no speaking here. In none of this are we doing any kind of verbal or linguistic wizardry. That comes later in the process when we're in a conversation. But everything that we're talking about here happens in the first 7 seconds. You heard that right. All the information we're going to talk about is deployed in the first 7 seconds of an interaction. In that first 7 seconds, you have the ability to completely neutralize or the lion's share of resistance that you are going to encounter or experience if you can nail those 7 seconds. Okay. So what's really going on here? All right, let's go back to foundations and fundamentals. Everything human beings do is in response to a feeling. It's either a feeling they want more of or a feeling they want a whole lot less of. Everything, the lion's share of everything that you saw on that little list is based on your ability to control your own state, of your ability to enter or exit any emotional state as an act of will. Now, sometimes when I talk to people and I say, your body makes a decision before your brain catches up, they look at me like I'm crazy, right? But I'm going to ask you guys a question. I want to give you guys an experience right now, if I can. Would that be okay? Type yes in the chat if that's okay. Okay, good. This is going to be, it's going to happen really quick, and it's going to illustrate what I'm talking about. Check in with your body now and notice, are you feeling more open or feeling a little bit more resistant or distant from me right now? Type it in the chat. Whatever one comes up, just theory says open, quite open, 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 right? If you felt reactant or resistant, That's okay. I didn't persuade you to do that. You're already deciding how you're going to process my information before I ask you to. And that will change as your body feelings change. It will change as the different files that your brain opens when it sees me for the first time access. That all happens for most of us. Now, if you're my brother's resistant, but I'm open, that's okay. Most brothers are resistant when the sisters are open, and vice versa, right? So the point is that we have a predefined state that we're in, and that state will make a decision for us. It will push us along a certain, what I call emotional vector or a decision vector. And so if we don't understand that there's a default state that people are in, and I gave you guys, how fast did you guys realize, did you guys even realize what you were feeling? Gabriel says, I was actually just having you check in with noticing how you feel right now, right? Were you more open or slightly resistant? Just noticing it, right? That's a predisposing state. Okay. Every single human being that you encounter will have a predisposing state. Yeah, very good. So the question becomes, what can we do with that? Well, if we understand that the most important, the biggest piece of leverage that we have, I feel like my collar's up. I don't know why. The biggest piece of leverage that we have is that first 7-second window where we're walking into a room, we lay eyes on that person lays eyes on us. In that 7 seconds, a cascade of verbal and unconscious processes and signals are being transmitted. And those unconscious signals will trigger something called a trans-derivational search. A trans-derivational search is your brain's mechanism that allows it to make associations, to remember things, to come to conclusions, to connect something outside of you with something inside of you, right? The trans-derivational search is one of the single most important faculties that human beings do, and they're doing it tens of thousands of times a day. You couldn't string together two thoughts without it. You couldn't communicate without it. You couldn't take in information without it. But the trans-derivational search determines what you connect that information to, whether it's a positive open state or a resistant reactant state. It makes that determination. So a lot of the things that we do in advanced persuasion and advanced influence are designed to stimulate and manage that trans-derivational search mechanism. We all have it. We can't function without it. Are you guys with me right now? Does this make sense? Now, the thing that we need to understand is you don't know. Now, when I asked, were you open or were you closed? You didn't know which one you were until I asked you. Let me say that 2 more times. Whether you were open to the influence or closed to it, you didn't know which one you were until I asked you for it. In that moment, your direction of perception turned inward to your body state, and now unconscious responses became conscious. All influence, all good influence, is done through the unconscious. The most powerful leveraging point that you have is the body state or body feelings that you can induce or inspire in another person. The most powerful way, the most leverageable point in the conversation is that 7-second window, right? You ever heard the expression? How many of you ever heard the expression, you only get one chance to make a good first impression? Ever hear that? Type it in the chat. Okay. This is why a lot of times your attempts at influence are home runs and slam dunks. And sometimes it's like pulling teeth. You can have two identical clients. right? Same background, same family type, same educational background, even the same type of house or environment. One person's in that closed off open state. The other person is thinking about the asshole boss they just left at work, and you're in their path. Guess what happens? You get two totally different trans-derivational chains of experience, trans-derivational searches, and you get painted with that brush. So you need to understand two things. How do you prime and how do you interrupt state? How do you redirect or reframe state, right? How do we interrupt it? So primes and pattern interrupts are going to be the single two biggest skill sets that good influencers understand. Now, not that language isn't important and values aren't important, but at the end of the day, in order for you to deploy your language, you have to have someone who's actually willing to listen to you, unless you're going to resort to other trickier methods, right? Are you guys with me so far? Does this make sense? Oh, great. Gabriel's asking, how do you prime? Well, I'm glad you asked that, Gabriel, because we're going to talk about some very powerful ways that we can do that. Now, the techniques that I'm going to share with you are derived from my complete killer influence system. By the way, how many of you have ever heard of the killer influence system? Just type it. If you've heard of it, type it in the chat. Cool. How many of you actually have studied it or have been to a class? Perfect. Okay, great. So people see the name Killer Influence, but for those of you who don't know, Killer Influence, the great Chris Stombacher, the first time I met Chris was at a Killer Influence class, and he has made more major companies bleed from the anus. Sorry, did I just say that out loud? Using this material than McDonald's sells hamburgers. So we have some real world-class persuaders online today. Um, People see the word killer influence and they have a feeling about that word. Didn't you? When you heard the term killer influence, what did you think of? Power, closing, okay, persuasion. When I say the word killer, James Bond persuasion. All right, Spicoli. Negative, right? So here's a fun factoid. Killer influence was a word that was chosen for a couple of reasons. A, it got your attention, right? Got your attention. Killer Influence has been named the #1 NLP training program in the world for the last 5 years. I'm hoping to go for 6, but I know it's if you can, I can show you the stuff on NLP Power. But when I chose the name Killer Influence, I wasn't choosing it necessarily because of the violent energy connected to it, but that's what gets people's attention. I chose Killer Influence because there's a more positive association to the word killer. Don't we assign things that we really like as killer? Don't, oh, that was a killer movie, or that was a killer hamburger, or that was a killer, right? That's the secondary meaning of killer influence. Because you see, the point of killer influence is to move through the world, making everyone you meet feel ridiculously good as a byproduct of having interacted with you. And because they feel so good about you and they feel so good in themselves and they link you to that, they do everything they can to be with you more and to do what you want because it gives them more of those killer feelings that they want. Now, how does that relate to what we're talking about? Everything human beings do is in response to a feeling. If we give them those killer feelings, they want to reciprocate, they want to do things in return. It's a win-win. So yes, on one level, killer influence. I got your attention, right? So, oh, power. And by the way, the system delivers on all that too. But it's largely based on who's using it, right? We try to teach the good Jedi. But the bottom line is, if you can prime somebody with feelings, a certain kind of feeling, and then you deploy your other tools, then the internal emotional momentum and inertia that you've generated from those body feelings takes everything that comes to them through your language and makes it exponentially more powerful. It's in alignment with everything that they want and need. They're more predisposed to process your language in exactly the way you want them to. Won't always be a 100, a 1-to-1 match, but it'll be in the same direction. And that's where good persuasion begins. It starts with a direction. It starts with what we call an emotional vector. Okay. How do we do that? So the question was, if once we establish a good relationship with someone, how can we maintain it? I'm going to give you 2 words that does that. You guys ready? I'm going to say it 3 times. So the question was, once we establish a good relationship with someone, how do we maintain it? Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. I just said it 3 times. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. Why? Because human beings are driven. They're driven to project everything about the way they think the world is supposed to be outward from themselves onto the people and the places and the environments around them. And if you can get out of your own way, if you can get out of your own projections long enough, then you can perceive what they're saying, how they're saying it, the way they're saying it, the way their eyes dilate or their blink rate changes when they say it. You can watch the kind of behaviors that they engage in over and over and over again. And from that, you can extract patterns. And once you understand a person's patterns and you understand their emotional needs, you have everything you need to make that the most thrilling and fulfilling relationship you could ever want, or completely destroy it. Completely destroy it. Human beings are not conscious. That's a very provocative thing to say. Human beings are not conscious. I could show you, I could literally show you study after study after study that shows human beings are not aware of the decisions they make until much, much later. And their decisions can change. And from 1 second to the next, their decisions can actually change and they don't know it changed. Okay. So again, I don't want to get too bogged down in questions because I'm going to give you guys some drills that you can start to play with. So Gabriel's asking, what do you do when you're communicating with someone and recognizing in them that they're nodding and somewhat in their head and they're waiting for you to stop talking to say what they want to say? Okay, so once again, I don't want to teach this in this class, but the echo technique is going to be the single most powerful psycho-emotional leveraging tool that you will ever have. Followed very, very closely by the emotional bonding checklist, right? We talked about these in other webinars. When you come to Killer Influence in later this month, you'll learn the whole system, right? But the thing is, you've got to pay attention to what people are saying and doing. You can't echo somebody. And this is why I started with the pay attention thing. You can't effectively echo somebody unless you're paying attention to them. You can't copy a person's gestures or mirror a person's gestures back to them unless you're paying attention. You can't access a person's mirror neuron network or create what we call a mirror neuron link unless you're paying attention. Okay, so there's a lot of neurological stuff that's going on that happens in that 7-second window. Akshay says, sounds like I'm going to make a few people my puppets. Careful, you're going to get me banned. Don't get me banned, right? If my channel suddenly disappears, right? I want you to all reach out to Lakshay and ask what happened, right? So Gabriel says echo gestures. What if it messes with your state? Well, again, that depends on what state you're in, right? Remember, if you're going to be exerting influence, you have to be in control of your state. What does state control mean in the Killer Influence system or Secrets of Human Influence? What does that actually mean? In our world, state control is the ability to enter or exit any psycho-emotional state at will, on demand, in any situation or circumstance. It is such, and it's one of the most proprietary aspects of the killer influence system. In fact, you won't see it. The closest we've ever, I think the closest we've ever come to like pulling back the curtain on that secret training is the emotional superpowers video that I put out a couple years back, where I'm doing the sway test with the young lady and making her move. That's a test to see if your neurological entrainment, which is an extension of your state control, is actually taking place. Nothing we do is theoretical in the system, right? It's all proven both in terms of the laboratory and in terms of real world experience. We have some of the people who've pressure tested this stuff in very, very hostile environments, right? Um, so Arsham is asking, are there any books you would recommend related to real influence? There's a lot of them. Like if you would see our reading list, it's almost 300 volumes, right? What we've done is taken that information, distilled it down into a simple, easy, step-by-step, usable framework that anybody can do, right? That's been my mission in this life. To marriage, hostile environment, Andy says. Yeah, right. Absolutely. Right. I've been in one of those. I get it. First one's practice. Remember that. Right. So let's talk about this 7-second window really, really quickly. So again, when we look at the 7-second window, there's a whole period of time before that 7-second window happens. We call that the pre-encounter phase or the proactivity phase. What's happening in that pre-encounter phase? Well, the pre-encounter phase is where you are going into your study of the subject in question. Okay. What do you know about the target? What do you know about their problems, their pain points, their hopes, their desires, their dreams, the things that are important to them, where they went to school, what sports they love, what kind of car they drive. All of these things are data points that you, as a proactive influencer, can discover and implement within yourself. So, what does that look like? Okay, so within the proactive phase, which is part of our pre-encounter session, you have 5 basic building blocks that we're trying to hit, or 5 psychological leveraging points that we want to hit. The first one is called identification. What does that mean? Human beings, regardless of what your political agenda is, what side of the woke or not woke fence you're on, Democrat, Republican, Hispanic, Asian, Caucasian. I'm going to give you a basic fundamental truth that you're going to fucking hate. You're not going to like it. You're going to disagree with it violently. But if we were to look at what the nervous system actually does, not how we feel about it, but what it actually does, human beings inherently like and feel more comfortable with people who are just like them. I'm going to say that 2 more times. Human beings inherently feel safer, more comfortable, and prefer people who are just like them. In other words, people they can identify with. People they can identify with. In my world, in our systems, we call this the identification principle. Right? Well, and Arsham's saying, or relate to. That is right. But why do we relate to them? Because something about that person is analogous or similar to something about us. I don't care what you want to believe. Every nervous system on the planet, mine, yours, the Speaker of the House, the guy in the Oval Office. Every single one of us is biased. Every single one of us is prejudiced. It's just a question of whether we're conscious of it or not. Every nervous system on this call today would feel much safer and much more comfortable in a room with nervous systems that are expressing and experiencing the world just like they are. This goes back to that projection principle I was talking about earlier in the webinar. Human beings are moving through the world following a map. That map of how is if it had a title, it would be, this is how the world's supposed to be. I'll say that two more times. If the map had a title, it would be the way the world is supposed to be. And we take that map and our nervous system does this before you even consciously think about it. So if you think you have conscious control over this, up until now, you probably didn't. Our nervous system takes that map and projects it outward and treats the people around us as if their map is exactly the same. And all the friction that we experience, all the resistance that we experience in our interpersonal communications, actually within ourselves as well, in our interpersonal communication happens because of a mismatch between the map I'm projecting and the map they're receiving. Remember, every human you meet is projecting their own map. And what they're really looking for are the places that it matches. The more boxes you check, the more comfortable and safe we feel, the more connected we become, and the deeper into rapport we get. And the less analysis and objections we want to produce. There is an inverse correlation between the degree of rapport you have with another human being and the amount of analysis and resistance that you get from that person. To the degree that you can maximize that connection, maximize that rapport, that deep level connection, the more entrainment happens at a neurological level. The right and left hemispheres synchronize with yours. The heartbeat synchronizes with yours. And now you're not two people anymore. You're symbiotic. You're connected in a very deep, very visceral, desirable way. This is the heart, no pun intended, of what killer influence does. Killer influence is really about, how do you create such powerful, fulfilling, satisfying, deep connections that people just accept what you say and follow your lead because it feels too good not to, right? And this is a really, really important thing. And it happens in the first 7 seconds once you're trained. Once you've gone through what we call the pre-encounter protocols, you know your target, you know what their pleasure points are, you know what makes them feel good, you know as much as you can about who they are, where they go to school, and you adopt those characteristics. Now, this is where it can get manipulative if you're not careful. You should only adopt the attributes of the person you're seeking to influence to the degree that you can be true to yourself and feel good about yourself doing it. If you start to change who you are too much to match another person, you might get your outcome, but the damage to your own self-esteem, not worth it. Now, unless you're like a special forces soldier or a counterintelligence operative where you have to do things that are morally gray, right? It's almost never necessary to lie, cheat, manipulate, steal, ever, to do this kind of influence. Gabriel says, I think you just answered my question. And this is what, because when we talk about ethics, right? When we talk about influence, the ethics question always comes up. Using the system the way we teach it to you, you never have to lie. You never have to mislead. You never have to deceive. You never have to coerce. You never have to do any of that stuff because you're doing what's in harmony with your own sense of what's morally and ethically right for you. And that's the guideline with the system, right? When you find yourself having to coerce or bully or mislead people, that crosses the ethical boundary. We don't do that. What we do is we create a connection with people that allows us to understand them in a way that we can determine very, very quickly if we can provide what they want and they can provide what we want. If we find that connection, then the conduit for that kind of transformation and the ability to get everything you want is wide open. They're happy to do it. If it's not, then ethically, it's on you to decide if you're going to what you're going to do with that information. Some people, because their value is nothing but the moolah, right? They'll do the connection anyway, and that is what I call crossing the ethical boundary, right? It's always about making in killer influence. I can't speak for other systems, right? But in our system, it's all about walking away from that where both sides get what they want as often as possible. Now, if you're like Chris Stombaugh, who is on the call with us, he's a lawyer. There's other personal injury attorneys on the call with us. There's law enforcement people, there's DEA, there's DOD people, right? I've taught people from all over the different various branches of the government. One of the things that happens a lot of times is sometimes you're in situations where a win-win isn't possible. It's just not. There's going to be a clear winner and a clear loser. But those situations are far rarer than what we as a day-to-day human being are going to be find ourselves in. And these systems can still help you in those situations as well. But for the vast majority of us, if you apply what we teach you, the way we teach you, just this 7-second window piece, right? People will just instantly like you. They'll want to connect with you. They'll want to bond with you. They'll feel like they've known you for their entire life, even though you've only known them for 20 minutes. Why? Because we're taking control of that 7-second window to create a fertile soil for all of our other techniques to grow from. Right? We're creating a state in the other person that makes them open to everything else we do. How do we do that? Here's the corollary to everything human beings do is in response to a feeling. The fastest way to change a human being's decision is to change their body feelings. The fastest way to change a human being's decisions is to change their body feelings. The fastest way to change another person's body feelings is to change yourself first. Let me say that 2 more times. The fastest way to change another person's body feelings is to change yourself first. As the agent of influence, the one seeking to exert influence on people, you must be the one to change. You must be the one to adapt and mold the version of yourself that you're presenting to match what is acceptable to the person you're seeking to influence. You must, through your proactive or pre-encounter phase, where you've determined their likes, their dislikes, their emotions, where they went to school, what kind of people they like to hang out with, the activities they like to do, creating a profile, taking that and creating an identity that is as much like that person as possible. When you do that, you're going to understand that person a whole lot better. And that allows you to use your body in ways that that person can recognize the cues that you're sending out. But more importantly, it allows you to cause them to act through trans-derivational search. Remember that word we talked about earlier, to access positive early experiences as they're seeing you for the first time. As they're seeing you for the first time. So the moment they walk in, they lay eyes on you, the meter starts running. Okay? In that moment when their eyes see you, there's a whole series of checks that are trans-derivational searches that are being activated. Let me ask you guys a question. I hate to do this with me on the camera. How many of you have ever fallen in love? Anybody? Anybody ever fall in love? How many of you ever had a best friend that when you were younger? Okay. Have you ever had this situation happen? I want to do the positive ones first before I do the negative ones. Have you ever walked into a place and seen somebody that reminded you of one of those people? Yes? Okay, good. Pretty much a no-brainer, huh? Let me ask you a question. Even if you never talked to that person, how did you feel about them? Did you suddenly like them more? Ah. Did that person try to persuade you to feel that way? No. You did it to yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the phenomena that drives your bus. Every person you meet, whether you instantly love them or instantly hate them, was because they reminded you of somebody else from your past. How did that happen? Repeat after me. Trans-derivational search. Let me see, two more times. Trans-derivational search. So, Gabriel, whether you've grown suspicious over the feeling or not, you still had the feeling, right? What came first? The feeling or the suspicion? Ladies and gentlemen, it's that simple. The feelings always come first. They drive everything. And if you can control that or to the very least, influence it, influence managing the states of others and guiding them to the decisions you want them to make becomes exceedingly easy and predictable. But you have to be willing to take charge of that pre-encounter process and the 7-second window. So how do we do that? Well, everything I'm going to teach you from this point on presupposes two things. A, you've learned how to control your own psycho-emotional state. If you haven't learned how to do that yet, come to Killer Influence in a couple of weeks. We'll show you how the best people in the world do it, right? And then we'll take it even further. Okay. The other thing is that you know who you're seeking to influence, who you're seeking to. Carmen says, this is why strangers tell me their life story. More often than not, yes. Okay. Some of us have features that are very generic, and a lot of people have them. And the moment somebody latches on, boom, all of those memories open and we become that person again, right? You're not going to stop this from happening. Let me be very, very blunt, ladies and gentlemen. You are not going to stop this from happening. It's hardwired into your nervous system. As my friend Chase Hughes likes to say, you're not going to meditate your way out of millions of years of evolutionary biology. So if you can't get rid of it, what's the alternative? What's the alternative? Do we ignore it? Do we just, I can't control it, so what's the point? Or do we do something with it? Right? If you think we should learn to do something with it, type that into chat. Perfect. Right? Not, no BS. This is the bottom line. You can say all the right words, but if that person's not in the state to be receptive, good luck. There's two ways that you get people into state. You either guide them into it or you interrupt them out of it. You either merge with the state they're in and lead them somewhere else, or you interrupt that state cold turkey and you send them into a different one. You literally interrupt their neurological process, interrupt their trans-derivational search, and you send them in a completely different direction. Well, that sounds awful hard, is it, David? No. Oh, no, no. It's not if you have the right tools. But if your state's not right, if you're not in the right state where you have the willingness and the ability to deploy those techniques and your timing is off. Remember, at the beginning of this webinar, I started talking about timing. When do we do these things? Right? If I can do it at just the right time, how do I do that? I pay attention. I pay attention to everything they say, everything they do, what they emphasize, what they don't emphasize. And I create a profile. This is all the best influencers in the world do what they do, whether they're conscious of it or not. I'm giving it to you in a very simple, understandable, reproducible understanding. If you want the techniques to do that, that's what's coming next. So when we're going to go into an encounter, okay, I walk in. You'll actually do this at Killer Influence. I'll walk in, I will survey my room and who's in it. I will look for the rapport leader. If there's one person in the room, it's pretty easy. If there's 2 or 3 people in the room, now you got to figure out who's the alpha dog in that pack. And I need to get a positive feeling generated from that person towards me. How do I do that? There's going to be 3 basic factors that are going to come into play. The moment I enter that room, my energy, my vibe, is going to emanate and fill the room, right? You guys, how many people here have ever heard of heartmath.org? Okay. How many guys have heard of mirror neurons? Okay. How many of you know what proprioception is? Perfect. Those 3 physiological mechanisms, the heart and the cardiac nervous system, your mirror neurons, and your proprioceptive neurology are going to create, as you enter that room, a vibrational signature, an electromagnetic pulse that saturates the room and interacts with theirs. Can't avoid it. What's going to be how do you influence that pulse? Your state. The psycho-emotional state and the physiology you have when you enter that room, the identity state that you've become when you enter that room will emanate before you open your mouth and before they lay eyes on you. Or, now it's faster. It's about the same speed. All right. So that's the first layer, state control. The next thing that's going to happen is there's going to be visual assessment. When that person sees you, they're going to take in the gestalt of everything at one moment. They're going to fixate consciously on whatever attributes the trans-derivational search notices. So in other words, if I walk in and I look like that person's best friend when they were in high school, then they will actually remember, oh, that looks like Jake from when I was back in Southern Lehigh. And all of a sudden, the same associations that I had to Jake are now pasted to me. My job gets even easier. Okay? That happens like that. You've all had that experience. True, not true? You can't stop it, so you have to use it. True, not true? You can't stop it, so you might as well use it. Right? Now, do you have to use it? No. Most of you have been not using it your whole life, unless you have a hot date. And then what do? You dress in the way that you think is going to be most attractive to the other person. Context changes what you're willing to let yourself do or not do, right? There's lots of different leverage to this, but we're talking about that critical 7-second window. Remember, we haven't spoken yet. We haven't spoken yet, but already 2/3 of our influence has happened. You walk in, your energy hits, And if you've been doing Qigong exercises or the energy cultivation exercises or the sphere of influence exercises that you'll learn in Killer Influence, then your energy hits them like a ton of bricks. It primes them already. They have this wash of good feelings wash over them. Now, as they visually assess you as you're making the approach, their brain is running a search for who does this person remind me of? The moment it finds a hit, it opens those files, all of those feelings come out, it stacks onto that vibrational wave that preceded you. Okay? Now they start looking for signs of friendliness. They've gone from scanning attributes to scanning for behaviors. If there's one thing you take away from today, besides what I talked about, right? There's this one behavioral cue or cluster that I want you to start to adopt so that people begin to prime themselves or become primed to process your what's the word I'm looking for? Your introduction of yourself into their world in a positive way. And that's called positive eye contact. Positive eye contact. So let's back up and then we'll go into positive eye contact. So I'm off in the world and I'm doing my pre-encounter stuff. I'm finding out who do they identify with? What are the identification triggers that I can adapt ethically that makes that person want to like me? How do I, through my nonverbal behavior, through the clothing I wear, things of that nature, symbolize authority in their world or credibility in their world? How do I create emotional appeal? That'll come later on much more powerfully. How do I affirm who they are and the identity that they embrace? Right? These are all things you think about in that pre-encounter phase. Once all that's put together, I create the version of myself that can ethically and integrally embody it. I get into the right state. And again, in Killer Influence, we're going to teach you 4 archetypal states that allow you to become the master and commander, someone who's very, very solid and certain and trustworthy and dependable and a natural leader. Or you can be the rock star, which is someone who is the life of the party, where everywhere they go, they bring the fun. Or you can be through the open heart trust trigger, we can be the person who's absolutely, utterly dependable. Someone is sincere and honest and ethical that you can tell your deepest, darkest secrets to and feel completely heard and understood, right? And then there's one we call the Jesus pose and one we call the Hakalau pose or the far-seeing pose. These are what we call meta states, right? We teach you how to create these things and then step into them on demand. Why? Because once I have my profile, once I have my identity, and now I walk in, everything is primed. They start to visually scan me, but I'm also visually scanning them. What am I looking for? If it's one person, I'm looking for positive eye contact. Positive eye contact. Positive eye contact has 3 components. 3. Right? Gabriel, that's basic training, day 1 of Killer Influence. And then you learn how to do that and expand it to groups. And then from there, you actually learn how to actually merge that into your rapport so that it gets insane. It's Jedi level stuff. Maybe I'll ask Chris to type in the chat. How do we use this over the phone? Keith, you use it exactly the same way. But because you're using a phone call, you have to be more auditorily aware. But a lot of the same things that you're doing in the pre-encounter phase, right? And even visually, like stuff you're doing like with your eye contact and your smile and stuff like that, it transmits through the phone. Your mirror neurons will take whatever information it receives and reproduce to the best of its ability everything it perceives. That's why mirror neurons are so powerful. So let's talk. Well, when I say positive eye contact, do you guys know what I mean? Because I use the term positive eye contact, but it might not be what you think. So I need to know where you're at. Right. So here's how we do positive eye contact. Remember that positive eye contact has three components to it. Three, not one, three. It's a behavioral cluster, but it's a behavioral cluster that is hardwired into every human being on the planet, and a vast majority of mammals have a variation of this as well. In some systems, one aspect of the positive eye contact cluster was known as the unconscious hello. So let's talk about this because this is going to be your homework for today. I want you to go out and do PEC, positive eye contact, with as many different people as humanly possible, right? What we'll do is I'm going to teach you the positive eye concept, and then we're going to talk about how to get access to the complete system. And then at the end of that, we're going to circle back and I'm going to teach you the first elements of what we call direct state control, how to step into any psycho-emotional state on demand at will. I won't have time to give you the whole 2.5 day training on just state control. But some of the folks online will tell you if what we did was a Jedi training school, right? The Jedi skill would be in the state control level, right? And you're going to find out later on that it sets the stage for even more crazy abilities, right? Because it evolves your nervous system in ways that allow us to do very, very powerful things. Positive eye contact, eye contact. So you look them in the eye, okay? You smile. Now, it has to be an organic, honest, legitimate smile, which is very, very hard to do if you're in a bad mood. This is why state has to come first. You're right, Andy. Eyebrow flash comes next. But we got to talk about positive eye contact first in terms of the eyes and the mouth. You see, if you've ever, have you guys ever seen, how many of you have been in my face reading class? Anybody? All right. How many of you have ever been to a body language training and they talked about false smiles versus genuine smiles? Do you guys know how to tell the difference between a false smile and a genuine smile? Crow's feet, right. So when somebody is legitimately happy to see you or in the situation, what you'll see when they smile is you'll see little wrinkles. If you've been to my face reading class, you'll see the joy lines, like the happiness lines or the sadness lines. They'll become much more pronounced. If you smile at somebody and they're dead from the nose up, there's nothing going on, it's not a true positive smile. So when you're out in the world and you want to prime somebody to have genuine positive feelings, you must start with yourself. You must have genuine positive feelings first. You must feel it first before you can reveal it. Right? It's very, very difficult to do a genuine smile if you're feeling like crap. It's very hard to do a genuine smile if you're afraid. This is why state control always, always, always has to be first. And it's why I spend so much time in all my other trainings teaching it, because it's the one that takes for most people, especially if you haven't come through Killer Influence. It's the one piece that most people never get a chance to learn. And it can take the longest to develop because everybody's looking for the language bullets, the behavior bullets. If you generate the right feelings, your nervous system becomes incredibly congruent and synergistic. Everything that your system does from that state is right. That's what's beautiful about the system is it's about understanding that everything is feeling driven, but that you can control those feelings. And once you can control your feelings, you can use it to manage the feelings of other people. Right? One of the reasons lie detection works is because there's a disconnect between the way your body is feeling, what your mind is doing, and the words coming out of your mouth. To the degree, the bigger the disconnect, the easier it is to catch. But if I give you the right feelings first, then your breathing aligns, your thoughts align, and the words that come out are congruent, that's the word you guys were using, with the message you want to convey. Even if you intentionally generated it, it's still harder to catch. So this is why feeling always has to be first. And the upside of that is Once you understand how feeling control works or state control works, no one can push your buttons for very long ever again. Right? It becomes very, very hard to knock you off your emotional base. And even if they manage to do it, you can get back to your emotional center, back to being grounded, stable, focused, and productive in seconds. Okay. So when we walk in, I'm scanning the room, I'm looking for the rapport leader. I want to make positive eye contact. Positive eye contact, genuine smile, eyebrow flash. I try to darken my eyebrows in a little bit so you could see it. And that's all it is. So watch, just, hi, right? That's all it is. It will happen within the first 3 to 7 seconds of making eye contact and smiling. You initiate it. If you've done your work well, you'll see it initiated back. As you walk in and your eyes, you gaze at them, if they might initiate it too. They see you, they have that trans-derivational search, the eyebrows go up, immediately return the eyebrow flash with positive eye contact. Return the eyebrow flash with positive eye contact. Okay? And what you'll find is all of a sudden, everybody relaxes, people feel connected, people become more open. And the more open they become, the less they start to analyze the things you say and do. Okay? So Andy's saying it works in all cultures of the world except Japan. Is that okay? Dave says, is it true that verbal communication makes less than 10% of communication? Yes. It's actually 8% or 7%, actually. 93% of all communication is non-verbal. Just like I'll go so far as to say 93% or better of all decisions are not conscious. Okay. All your life, you were focused on the words. Yes. Yes. And you were missing the big picture. Words are, don't get me wrong, words are important in their proper place. But if you haven't set the stage, like, where's it easier to grow crops? In the desert or in a rainforest? On fertile farmland or a rock quarry, right? In general, right? There's exceptions to every rule. The point is that words are like seeds. The more fertile the soil, the greater the crop. You have control of that now. You've started the process. There's a lot more to it, but this will get you going, especially if you combine it with the ECHO technique, 3 magic questions protocol, emotional bonding checklist, resistance removal, all of which we're teaching next in a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks in our killer influence training. So that being said, would you like me to show you what I put together for you guys? Would you guys like to take this further? Cool. All right. Let me just find the right slide and we'll go into this, right? So one of the things I discovered was that there's 5 basic outcomes that we go for when we want to influence people. We want to create internal authority and leadership. We want to change any conversational resistance that we encounter. We want to change their beliefs. We want to have story driven. We want to be able to tell very powerful, very interesting stories. We want to be able to generate charisma on demand. And we want to reinforce that integration. So let me go ahead and change this for you guys. So I'd like to present for you guys and your entertainment and edification. Oops, let me get this out of the way here. Why is this not showing? Okay. The Secrets of Human Influence, Universal Persuasion Protocol training. This is a self-mastery inner game training for erasing fear, hesitation, or doubt. This is part of our state control module and allows you to replace all of those feelings with an unshakable sense of inner certainty. It's going to allow you to command attention instantly without saying a word, to speak what we call stealth commands. And these commands actually come in on different channels. Some come in verbally. Many of them come in non-verbally, like this, like with positive eye contact. This is a literally functions like a computer command that says, "I'm safe. I'm just like you. Let's be friends." And it really is powerful. It'll create instant trust and connection, even with total strangers. It'll allow you to use words that make people feel, agree, and want to take action. It'll neutralize difficult people and guide conversations extremely effortlessly. Inspire action without resistance, no pressure, no pushback. Um, I make this a little bit smaller here so I can see it. Excellent. Sorry. I'm having a little trouble with they say size doesn't matter. Apparently it does. Um, in sales and business, we're going to teach you how to speak less and influence more. And probably based on the training today, there's no better example of speaking less and influencing more than what we call the 7-second window. Okay. In that 7 seconds, your ability to persuade and influence becomes either exponentially easier or exponentially harder. Now, when we come back from going through the how to access the entire system, we'll talk about, well, David, you mentioned how do we do one-on-one? What if there's a group of them? How do we do that? I'm going to teach you how we handle that situation as well. All right. So again, if you want to close more deals, ace more interviews, lead negotiations, activate the mental triggers top performers use to sell, lead, and persuade, this is really what it's about. Now, everything I'm going to share with you is going to be available freely till January 6th, 2026, 11:59 p.m. tonight. I'm going to encourage you to take action on this. If again, this is the next step for you guys. We've taught you how to make that first 7 seconds the most leverageable moment humanly possible. But there are other things that you can do to make it even more so. But it takes training. And so the next level for you would be coming up very, 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 very soon. So what are you going to get? Well, you're going to get the 7-stage or 17 video program that teaches you what we call the 7-stage universal persuasion protocol. The 7-stage universal persuasion protocol is all about learning how to set an outcome in a measurable way, how to think like a master of influence, how to control your own state, get into any state on command at will, and use it as the fuel for your persuasion and that vibrational signature that we send out through your mirror neurons and stuff like that. We're going to teach you how to control your own emotional state so no one can push your buttons ever again. If you took this training for no other reason than the ability to finally get your emotions under control, instead of having them control you, it would be worth twice the price, right? This is probably the state control and methods that we teach. Nobody else is teaching them. Nobody's putting it together the way that we do. And it's a shame because when you go to things like NLP trainings and stuff like that, everybody talks about state control, but nobody can do it. And it's really sad. And the reason they can't do it is because they don't have a methodology for training it. A lot of times the information that we teach you, you can get on the internet, but the ability to train it and use it, that's what makes the difference between someone who actually gets the things they want and someone who collects a lot of information and can't do a damn thing with it, right? I want people that are actually going to use this material. That's what makes me happy. So I want you guys to be among those. All right. I'm going to teach you power rapport skills for connecting with anyone, anytime, anywhere. Most people understand NLP style rapport, which is do what they do, say what they, change their words to match their visual, their auditory, their kinesthetic, their olfactory preferences. Don't do that. There's a much easier way to do it. We separate power rapport into 3 different levels. Each one has very specific uses and very specific circumstances. So we have classical rapport, which is something that every NLP class teaches you. Then we have what we call coherence, which is where we like to operate. And this is an entrainment of the nervous system, the hemispheres of the brain, the heartbeats, the respiration that happens automatically. It's not something you make happen. It's something you allow to happen and that you can trigger on demand, and then you can begin to leverage that. And then you have the 3rd level of rapport, which is used specifically for dating, romantic, and attraction purposes. We call that vibing. And it's based on something called honest signals. And if you don't understand what honest signals are, you'll learn all about them in the training and in this training. And why you use that and how you create status gaps and things of that nature. To do romantic applications, you need a very specific kind of rapport that you want to generate. So if you're one of those people that wants a better, more vibrant choice of partners, then that level of rapport is something you really want to focus on. We're going to teach you the most powerful and irresistible hypnotic language patterns that exist, patterns that are so strong that even when you know they're being done, you can't resist them. It allows you to make anything you want seem to cause anything you want in the minds of your listener. It'll cause things, you can make anything you want mean anything you want. You can focus and direct people's focuses of attention. You can install automatic processes. Um, there's so many things that you can do with these language patterns. And once you understand the dynamics of them, they're very, very easy to use. They're a lot of fun. And you can use them anytime, anywhere. And literally everything you say becomes an irresistibly compelling, fun to listen to hypnotic induction. Then we're going to teach you how to use all that stuff to manage the emotional states of other people. Why? Because that's the job. Influence and persuasion is all about managing the states of others so that they become open to the influence and the good ideas you have to share, right? We're going to teach you how to look at a person's behavioral code and understand their patterns and recognize them so you can use them to make their decision making easier. And then finally, we're going to show you how to emotionally bond to anyone's deepest desires and get them to actually want to do what you want them to do. A lot of times they'll literally almost beg you to do it. It's kind of fun to watch when you see people just open up like big flowers and think of you as their best buddy ever, and just sometimes they just throw money at you. Not always. It has only happened a couple of times, but um, we do know, we've seen people literally waive their attorney-client privilege to answer questions when they shouldn't be answering questions. That was one of the most profound examples of this kind of hypnotic persuasion I'd ever seen. It was completely voluntary on the part of the subject. You'll learn how to do things like that and a whole lot more. We're going to include a 240 plus page killer influence training manifesto. This is designed to allow you to exert spatial influence and social influence, and understanding the four pillars of irresistible hypnotic persuasion, four macro areas that allow people to just believe what you say and do what you want, how to profile people in as little as 90 seconds, how to detect lies, how to look at unconscious filters and use those. There's so much in this manual that I can't, if I were to talk about everything that was in the manual, I wouldn't have time for the rest of the webinar. But that's all included in your Secrets of Human Influence home study course. Plus, you'll get access to an online community with over 210 active members. We'll talk about that towards the end of the presentation. So this total value on this is $2,497, but I put together a whole system. Remember, I said we're going to teach you, we want you to have 5 basic outcomes that we want to create for you. And we put together a bonus package designed to facilitate that for you. So this is all about, this particular training is all about internal authority and leadership and how to really internalize the system. But if you act now, you're going to get these extra special bonuses. So the first one is called Weapons of Mass Instruction. Now, Weapons of Mass Instruction is all about the power of stories to influence the nervous system, and it's based on neuroscience. One of the things that is so amazingly powerful about stories is they are never actually perceived as an attempt to influence people. They're not perceived as persuasion. Your brain goes through a very specific set of processes. If I even begin to hint that I'm going to tell a story, your brain goes into story experiencing mode. And the more I can get you transported into that story on a neurological level, the more likely you are to simply adopt the behaviors, attitudes, and primes that are installed in the story. Now, you might have heard a familiar word just then. I said at the beginning of today's webinar, you either prime somebody or you interrupt their pattern, right? You're either priming their pattern or interrupting their pattern. Weapons of Mass Instruction is all about using stories to hypnotically prime people to have the body feelings you want, the internal trans-derivational searches that you want, in a way that is never, ever, ever perceived as influence. It's perceived as entertainment. And that's what makes it so powerful. The system is divided up into 5 specific chapters that will teach you everything from the neuroscience of how and why this works, to how to connect with a story, how to inspire, motivate, and lead, how to remove resistance, and how to use stories as a way to install more advanced persuasion skills and techniques. This is one of the most dangerous courses I've ever created. Um, but it's also perhaps one of the most powerful you'll ever use because you can do it anytime, anywhere, with any culture. One of the things that you'll discover as you move into different types of linguistic persuasion, specifically NLP presuppositions, is a lot of times because NLP was based on the English language, sometimes the language patterns don't translate quite as cleanly into other languages as they do in English. But every culture on the planet tells stories, and we're all hardwired for story the same way. And so if you can tell a good story, then it doesn't matter as long as they have some understanding of your language, right? You'll get the effect that you're going for. It will create a massive rapport bubble with the entire audience. So this is actually one of the ways that we can get an entire audience in rapport very, very quickly. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free. If you add that to the $24.97 from Secrets of Human Influence, the total combined value is $44.94. We're also going to include another one of our really, really powerful programs. And this program is designed for specifically how to change beliefs during normal conversations. Once again, going back to priming and pattern interrupting. The Renegade Reframing Bonus Supplement has 14 specific tools that allow you to change any belief, overcome any objection, or win any argument in 15 seconds or less. Within the 15 seconds of hearing this, whatever's being said, you can deploy a pattern that will interrupt their thought process and redirect their thoughts in the direction you want it to go. And if you just keep talking, they'll keep following that direction of thought. Now, this is extremely powerful for you, not as an influence tool for other people yet, but as an influence tool for yourself. Why? Because if your state's not right, nothing else can be right. One of the biggest levers of your emotional state at any given moment are the beliefs that you bring to that situation. If you've got a head full of limiting beliefs, that's what your brain locks into when you go to do your skills, and then that changes your body state and it causes a negative cascade. It puts you into the what we call the vortex, which is a downward performance spiral. You get less and less resourced. But if you have 14 different ways to not only interrupt that step process before it has a chance to start and redirect it, you start to create what we call a positive performance spiral. You start to get more and more better at persuasion and influence. Your state starts to accelerate and increase because the filters that you bring to the interaction, the person you are in the interaction fundamentally changes. And you can deploy these exact same patterns to change other people's limiting beliefs, to overcome other people's objections, and put them in a positive performance spiral where they're doing more and more and more of what you want them to do. They're thinking more and more and more the way you want them to think. Very comprehensive training, and it's the extension of the Universal Persuasion Protocol. This presupposes you have a good command of the Universal Persuasion Protocol, which is the very first thing we talked about, the 17 video program, right? So this is all about conversational belief change, priming, and redirection, okay? Total combined value on this is it's a $1,997 value, but we're going to give it to you absolutely free because we want you to have all 5 of your outcomes. Okay. Finally, we're going to talk about something that we all want more of, but we never seem to really find a methodology to get there, and that's charisma. This program is called Charisma and Conversion, and it's designed specifically for public speakers. How many of you make part of your living or build your business through some form of public speaking, either on social media, either to boardrooms or to large assemblies of people, Zoom meetings, whatever? Charisma and Conversion is all about how do you, through your body language, through your wording, through your state control, through specific techniques, how do you emanate irresistible charisma, and how do you learn the architecture of persuasion? How do you actually create a talk or a presentation that hypnotically primes people and programs them to take the next step with you, either for sales and marketing, for what my teacher Lisa Sasevich used to call service delivery, where you're teaching them a specific skill or set of skills. How do you deliver that information in the most engaging, enthralling, behaviorally compliant, generating way possible to get those people to take action on your words and believe what you say, do what you want, and feel amazing about it, right? That's what this course is about. Okay. It's about how do I emanate trust and authority with and truly emanate it, right? How can I be open and vulnerable and still have authority with people and show them that I can help them? That's what this course will teach you how to do. It'll also teach you how to actually take the content you create and leverage it, how to use it on YouTube or Meetup or whatever. This is actually they're actually derived from when I was starting my YouTube channel way back in the day, how I hacked the system to become the dominant NLP guy and hypnosis guy on YouTube. There were other people on YouTube long before me, but they would have like the lowest view count. They would have almost no shares, no likes, right? I figured out some things about YouTube that allowed me, without even realizing I'd done something unusual. Um, I learned how to leverage that content, mostly from my direct marketing experience, which I am so grateful that I took the time to learn. Anyway, if you have a business that you want to promote using social media, or you're looking for ways to take the content you already have and make it work for you, on top of being the most charismatic person in the room, this is a really, really good course for you to, or information for you to have under your belt. It really has changed a lot. I have a lot of people who've really, really made a lot of money and really got their business to a fast start utilizing the methods that we teach in charisma and conversion. I'm very proud of the course. I don't teach it that often, mostly because I don't want to make too much competition, but it's available to you for free as part of this package. It's a $1,997 value. Total combined value on this right now is $8,488 if you register before the end of the webinar. So just to sum it all up for you, right? You'll get the Secrets of Human Influence Universal Persuasion Protocol Home Study course, which is based on our Killer Influence curriculum, by the way. 17 videos, $2,497 value. You'll get the Weapons of Mass Instruction, Neuroscientific Storytelling Secrets Revealed. You'll get the Renegade Reframing, how to instantly overcome any objection or change any belief in seconds, $1,997 value. We're going to give that to you for free. You're going to get Charisma and Conversion, Hypnotic Presentation Skills, once again. So once again, remember that there's certain outcomes or certain benchmarks for each of these courses. There's a reason why we chose these courses for you guys. Okay. A, internal authority and leadership. This is for using influence to drive stories and motivate and inspire. This is for changing and interrupting patterns and beliefs. And this is for inspiring, leading, and motivating people to believe what you say, do what you want, and to masterfully control a person's attention, right? The architecture of persuasion and influence. Total value on this is $8,488. But I want you guys, it's the new year, time for new outcomes, new changes. So you're not going to have to invest $84.88. You're not even going to have to invest. If I cut it for half, would that be okay? Well, we're not going to do that either. Okay. Would it be a good deal at $2,122? I think so. It's less than the price of the original program. We're not going to do that either. Okay. You can get it all today for a low one-time investment of just $797. That gets you everything. Okay. And if you need a little help, we can break that up into 3 easy installments of just $297 each. All you got to do to get yours is go to nlppower.com/go. That's nlppower.com/GO. Okay. Now, for those of you who are a little bit more tentative, we're going to give you 60-day access. Click your link go through the process, access this course for a full 60 days. You'll know really quickly if this is going to be for you. If you're not quickly changing how conversations feel, if you're not noticing decisions before resistance actually has a chance to happen, if you're not getting your timing down before resistance appears, you'll know really quick. This is a perception training. Test it for 60 days. If after 60 days you're still not getting the results, you're not seeing the transformations that you want, let us know. We'll give you a full refund. Okay? If you grab your course before January 6, 2026, we're also going to give you some really cool extra fast action bonuses. And these are the things I've found that really help people make the transition from interesting information to unstoppable persuasion and influence training and capabilities. What are they? Well, the first one is hands-on training. First and foremost, the one thing that takes you from access to ownership, right? Clicking the link, going to nlppower.com/go, going through that checkout process, that gives you access to the information. You're going to have all the information you need to go ahead and make the changes you want. But there is one thing that makes the result faster, better, and more inevitable for you, and that is hands-on training. The ability to actually roll up your sleeves with other people in real time, do the drills, and get the skills. The NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program was designed specifically for that purpose. It's designed to give you the opportunity to get into a room or a Zoom room or a live room, however we're doing it, with a group of people who are interested in the same qualities or the same skill sets that you are, and let you actually train for 4, 5, 6 hours a day with real world feedback, with me looking over your shoulder, guiding you, giving you extra drills or feedback on how to make your stuff better. For 90 days, you're going to come in on the third Saturday of every month from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And I'm going to ask you, what do you want to learn today? What are your sticking points? What are the things you want to know most about? What do we need to fix in your own persuasion training? How do we make what you're doing better? I'm going to write those down on the board, and I'm going to drill you and the rest of the group on those exact skill sets for 4 to 6 hours until you can do them in your sleep. And then I'm going to send you off into the world to actually do it. You won't get a certificate from the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program. What you will get is the most important thing you can hear today, a skill set. You'll have the ability, not just the access to the information, you'll have the ability to actually do it, right? There's a lot of people out there, they just collect information, don't do anything with it, and wonder why their life sucks, right? That's not what this is for. This is for taking it from interesting information to unstoppable hypnotic persuasion, right? You're going to get to test it out for a full 90 days. If at the end of 90 days you want to stay, we'll show you how to extend your membership for as long as you want. There is no contract. There is no commitment, right? If you stay for 6 months, great. If you stay for 6 years, great, right? The price really doesn't go up for you, but you do get access to our NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring archive, which is the video content, the video recordings of every single training that we've done in the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program for the last 15 years. It says 11 here, but it's actually 15. We started in October of 2010. So October just passed was our 15th year anniversary. This is not new. And the reason it's not new is because it works. It's because it creates people who not only know this, who understand intellectually how to do these things, it creates people who can actually do it anytime, anywhere, under any circumstance, for any reason. And that's really why you showed up today, isn't it? To be able to actually do something, right? It's a $1,597 value. We're going to give this to you for free. Why? Because we want you to win. We don't want you to be someone who just is a librarian and collects information. We want you to be somebody who collects information, integrates the information, and then applies the information, right? Remember, they say knowledge is power. That's not actually true. Knowledge is potential power. It does not become power until it's actually used. So I want you to be powerful. If you want to be powerful, you know what to do. All right. This is a $10,085 combined value, but we're not done. If you click that link before I sign off the webinar today, you're going to get a couple other really cool bonuses. We're going to get the Stealth Instant Conversational Hypnosis Crash Course. This is one of the coolest courses I ever created, and it was designed specifically for people who are impatient, like me. It was designed for people who want to be able to exert hypnotic influence, to hypnotize people anytime, anywhere, under any situation or circumstance, no matter what, and to be able to do that in the shortest amount of time possible. And what I mean by that is not just necessarily how fast can you hypnotize somebody, but how fast can you gain the ability to hypnotize somebody. This course was designed to be learned and applied within hours of downloading it. It comes with workbooks, transcripts, bonus videos, bonus audios, MP3s. There's a huge amount of information here, all designed for one specific purpose: to get you out into the world and functional, being able to hypnotize anybody, anytime, anywhere during normal conversations in a couple of hours. Literally all you have to do is watch a couple of videos and apply the skill sets, and you can be out there hypnotizing people that quick. Now, I recommend you take your time, but if you're impatient like me, this is a great way to get started fast. I find many times that the faster people get started, the more successful they tend to be, and the longer they tend to stay with the material because the wins come fast. If you sit down and you take the time to think about things, you actually run the risk of the trans-derivational search moving you in a direction that is not in your best interest. It's just a weird thing that happens. So we want you to start fast. We want you to see results. We want you to have wins, right? So that's why we always try to give you on these webinars positive, powerful, easy, actionable stuff, so you can convince yourself how this works for you. So this is it's a $997 value, and the total combined value on this is $11,082, if I'm reading that properly, right? And finally, click that link now for the next 21 people to register today. We're going to give you a free VIP ticket to our next virtual healing intensive. This is a 3-day guided healing and transformation virtual retreat. It's designed to help you unlock the hidden mechanisms that shape your choices, to build your confidence, extend your influence. And this will allow, it's going to be February 6th through the that's right. February 6th to the 8th, 2026. It is a virtual intensive, so you do not have to worry about travel. You don't have to worry about hotels. This is you, a small group of co-conspirators like yourself and me, being guided step by step by step through exercise and drill and exercise and drill. This is not a certificate that you'll get. This is a transformational experience that you'll be guided through. You'll be learning you'll be having the ability to literally eliminate fear, hesitation, and self-doubt, to install unshakable inner confidence, to command attention without saying a word, to be the subject of and learn how to use neurohypnotic patterns to create change within yourself, inspiring deep trust, speaking your own power words, diffusing manipulation and conflict in seconds, because you're going to actually find yourself becoming more and more immune to the remember I said that all feelings are everything human beings do is in response to a feeling. The way that people manipulate you is by finding your trigger points and pressing them. As you go through this process, more and more and more of those holes in your armor are going to be dissolved. They're going to be filled in. You're going to become less and less vulnerable to the emotional influence of other people. Okay. And we'll teach you how to install the success codes used by elite performers and all kinds of really cool stuff. So this is usually it's a $2,497 value. We're going to gift this to you absolutely free, for the simple reason is that we want you to be the most emotionally healthy version of yourself we can be. We want you to actually utilize these skill sets to reinforce and integrate your inner game, right? And so we're going to guide you step by step through 3 days of me just just hypnotizing you and guiding you through different transformational experiences. This is not something where you're going to come out with a certificate that allows you to go out and do hypnosis on other people. This is you literally getting therapy from me for 3 solid days as part of a small group. So if that's something that, even if you're not interested in influence, but if you want to get some healing done, this is a great opportunity. It's February 6th through the 8th, 2026. You can even do it in your underwear. I promise I won't look. All right. Total combined value on this is 13,579 bucks. So this is what we got for you today. You have the Secrets of Human Influence home study course, the Weapons of Mass Instruction, Hypnotic Storytelling Secrets, the Renegade Reframing, Instant Conversational Belief Change. Once again, Weapons of Mass Instruction and Reframing are absolutely free. Charisma Conversion, absolutely free. NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring, free. Stealth Instant Conversational Hypnosis Crash Course, free. And the Virtual Healing Intensive, February 6th through the 8th, online through Zoom. We're going to give that to you free. The overall package is worth about $13,579. But for today only, our New Year's special, we're going to go ahead and give that to you, the entire package for just $797, or 3 easy installments of just $297 each. All you got to do to get yours is go to nlppower.com/go. That's nlppower.com/go. Please click your links now. Moss and Mia are standing by. Hopefully the links are in the chat. Okay, very good. Let me go ahead and put that in the YouTube chat. YouTubers, your link is now live in the chat as well. So if you guys like what you talked about, you want to get the full package. Lily says, yay, awesome, I feel loved. Go ahead and click those links. We'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and take a few questions. If people have questions while you're doing this, we can go ahead and answer those for you. Hold on a second. Let me just find my screen here. Am I sharing my screen? I can't tell. Oh, there I am. Okay. All right. So, hold on. I can't tell if I'm sharing my screen or not. All right. So let me see. What questions do you have? You see the PowerPoint? Okay, good. Thank you. So Theory says, do we have lifetime access? You have lifetime access to Secrets of Human Influence, lifetime access to Renegade Reframing, lifetime access to Weapons of Mass Instruction, lifetime access to Charisma and Conversion. The VIP ticket, the Virtual Healing ticket, is actually, it lasts indefinitely. So what that means is the next Virtual Healing Intensive is coming up in February. If you can't make the February training, then you just let us know, and then we'll let you apply that ticket towards a future training. If there's a different 3-day training that you want to do, you want to change it out for the virtual healing, instead of the Virtual Healing Intensive, you want to do something else, we'll do that too. So the bottom line is, once you're in the database as a virtual ticket holder or a VIP ticket holder, it's there until you actually use it. Sorry, I look a little short because I had my camera set for while I was standing, and I just sat down for the first time today. So I'm gonna go ahead and I don't like to do webinars sitting down. I think it dampens the energy, and people need energy to do the things that we do. Okay. Okay. Gabriel's asking, what if I have one of these already? Great question. Happens a lot. Our stuff is very, very popular. And most of the people that come into Planet David, they're waiting for new stuff. So it's very, very common that people have a product that we're already offering. So here's how it works. If you want to take advantage of the webinar offer today, right, but you already have some of these packages, no problem. Click your link, email Moss or Mia, let them know which programs you already have and that you'd like to substitute those programs, something else for those programs. They'll give you access to our catalog, and as long as the price points are the same, the thing you want to substitute for is of equal or lesser value, we're happy to personalize that program for you, right? One of the things you're welcome, Gabriel. Gabriel says, yay. One of the things I'm working on, and I want to apologize to you for this, it's been a long time. since I've put out like brand new stuff. That changes this year. So you're going to see a lot of new trainings coming out. You're going to see expansions and new versions and things of that nature. Um, our technology stands the test of time, but we're always refining and looking for next levels, right? And I will tell you up front that if you want to take some of our really advanced trainings, you have to have killer influence and or identity by design as a prerequisite. That's rapidly becoming the entry point to all of our really Jedi level training stuff that we're doing, right? If you'd like to apply, Andy's asking Chinese medicine or more energy, both. Andy, I have a whole 16 seminar series planned on advanced energetics, neuroshamanics, and energy healing. I have been fighting with myself for years now about whether I should teach people that stuff. It's been a big part of my life. Anybody who's been in our inner circles or been inside of our live events knows that energetic, spiritual practices, advanced magical practice and manifestation is a huge part of something I study. I don't teach it often because it's not really where people's heads are at most of the time. But if you've gone through trainings like Killer Influence, where you've learned how to tap in and evolve your nervous system, like Andy's saying, I've lived with you. I would have loved to learn. Yeah, Systema was one of the big. Systema was actually one of the disciplines that convinced me maybe I need to teach this stuff, the energetic stuff. For many years, I would teach it only under great duress and the least I could teach. But when I did teach it, I taught it so that the people could actually like create phenomena from it. Timothy says, this is the year I get ahead of my finances. I'll be studying for Planet David for winter. Just got a job at traditional Chinese massage. Oh, excellent. After something came to 5 years in the farm without a, oh, okay. Lily says, I'm a quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner, so I'm interested in shamanism. Okay. Well, there will be, we'll probably do an introductory class online to see if proof of concept, right? Again, and if you want to use your virtual ticket for that instead of the virtual healing intensive, you can absolutely do that. So yeah, and again, I've been doing a lot of research over the past few years on how to make these things practical, transferable, and testable. And I've finally found the people that can show me how to do that and give me the pieces I need to integrate. So it's coming. We're gonna be putting out new versions of Killer Influence, new versions of Defense Against the Dark Arts. We're gonna extend our Unleash the Magic training. Lots of good stuff coming. Lakshay says, I'm working on healing people with astrological remedies, modern medicine, and now going to use your. Oh, I'll be honest. As far as our personal healing techniques go, nothing is faster than what we do. Jeremy says, please, I just started Qigong and support. Oh, yeah. When Qigong is done right, with the right understanding of it, it's really, really powerful. And when you integrate the Killer Influence skill sets into it, it becomes a whole different animal. Right. So those are things that are coming in Planet David. Clearly, there's a very big energy interest that I saw hints of, but I didn't realize you guys were so passionate about. So I'll see what I can do. Jeremy says, doesn't make sense how much my posture has improved just by moving my arms around slowly. You'll be amazed. You'll be amazed how rapidly your body can transform itself if you just apply a few things correctly. Same thing with influence. If you think about everything I talked about in the last 90 minutes, right? Happens in the first 7 seconds. Hey, I can't compete with it. I'll be honest with you. One of my secret pet projects is learning how to influence computers. I've met people who can do it. It's still way off before I release anything like that, but it's something I'm working on. Anyway, what questions do you have about the packages, the programs? Go ahead and click those links right now. So Lakshay's asking, does spinning technique work on even physical disease? Like, yes, yeah. Um, when you're dealing with physical issues, you have to make two distinctions. Is the issue chronic or is it acute? If it's an acute problem, you have to use a different set of questions to get the nervous system to access the resources that you need. Remember that disease is just communication. Disease is a process that is running in the body that creates a product. And if you understand what the nervous system is trying to communicate and you understand its language, you can communicate back and tell it what to do instead. So the short answer is yes, it can work. Can we also alter the baldness pattern or maybe recovering eyesight? I have techniques that I'm working with now for recovering eyesight. Um, I have not tested or played with it with pattern baldness of any kind. That's something you're going to have to do some exploration on and let us know how it goes, right? But I would treat it as a chronic illness, not an acute one. Okay, let's see what my YouTubers are saying. Uh, for those of you who like to, okay, your energy is important. Okay, is there a question there? It must be difficult to be an authority figure. How can I make the best when power dynamics are part of the deal? Okay, so being the authority is actually not as hard as you think it is. But one of the misunderstandings that people have is being in control versus being the authority. We have a program, and for those of you who are interested in it, if you grab the course today while I'm actually on the webinar, I'll throw this in as an unannounced bonus. We have a class called Stealth Selling Secrets. And stealth selling secrets is all about what we call frame control. Renegade reframing is all about reframing. But stealth selling secrets is about how do you take control of the reality frame in a given interaction. And this goes to Lottie's question about authority versus controlling the frame. There's a very common belief that the person in authority is the one controlling the frame. That's not always the case. The person who controls the frame controls the game. But sometimes, and all positions within a reality frame can be divided into three basic categories. You're either the dominant, the subordinate, or the equal. So that again, dominant, subordinate, or equal. A lot of people think that the person in the subordinate role in the frame has the least amount of power. And that is, if you're not trained, technically true. But frame control is the ability to influence a frame from any one of those three positions. Lakshay says, actually, I did spinning for baldness on an 80-year-old person. He texted me yesterday. He has started growing his hair again. Lakshay, I want you to write that up and I want you to send it to me because I need it for my records. Lily says, I've learned that the victim has the most power. Okay, great use of language here. What Lily says is, I've learned that the victim has the most power. There's a presupposition in your language, Lily, that the person who's the subordinate is the victim. Not always the case. Okay. How many people here have ever had little children? Just type yes in the chat. How many of you have ever been a little child? Okay. Let me ask you a question. Lakshay says still a child. Good. Never grow up. It's overrated. How many of you have ever watched a little child talking to their parent and that parent gives that child whatever they ask for? Please, mommy, please. I'll be good, I promise. Is that a dominant or a submissive subordinate position? Who was controlling the frame? Remember, the common wisdom, the common idea behind frame control is that if in order to control the frame, you have to be the dominant one. And it's helpful, but there are times when the subordinate can control and manage that frame to get what they want. There's times when being the subordinate or taking a subordinate role is the most strategically advantageous position to be in to get what you want, especially if the person in authority has control issues. Okay? If they're insecure about their position. Coming in as a dominant or coming in as an equal can be perceived as threatening, which ruins your outcome. Remember, state control is the ability to get your outcome in any situation or circumstance utilizing the manipulation of positions within a frame, right? It's not really the focus of today's training, but it's a huge factor in how people make decisions, right? An operator, which is what I'm training you guys to be, is someone who can perceive the frame and then modify who they are and how they do things to fit and get their agenda within that frame. So for those of you who click that link and grab your course, especially the first 21 people, right, who grab your course before I log off the webinar, that's when the fast action bonuses go away. I'm going to throw in the stealth selling secrets video so you can see what frame control actually looks like. Right? It's really, really important. So yes, Lakshay is asking, can I demonstrate state control? Like, yes, we're going to actually do a couple of drills together just so you start to really get that this is a very, very deep well. If you came to Killer Influence, when you come to Killer Influence, if you learned absolutely nothing but how to control your state or recover your state, you would be ahead of 95% of the population out there. Because every agency on the planet that has access to media is hammering you with state control. Theory says, I've subscribed. Welcome aboard, Theory. Glad you're joining us. It's going to be awesome. All right. So before we go into that, let me just give you a quick reminder of what we're doing. So again, you're going to get the Secrets of Human Influence Persuasion Home Study course. Let me just make sure that I can see what you guys are seeing. Okay. 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 So you're going to get the Secrets of Human Influence core home training, which is absolutely critical. You got to have that. From there, we're going to teach you weapons of mass instruction, the hypnotic power of storytelling. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. I'm going to give you renegade reframing, how to change beliefs and normal conversations in seconds. And honestly, renegade reframing is really powerful, guys. Really powerful. And if you combine it with this 7-stage universal persuasion protocol in your Secrets of Human Influence training, you are as close to unstoppable as it gets, right? And if you would layer your state control training on top of that, it gets crazy. And then we're going to give you, of course, charisma and conversion for those of you who want to take it to a much higher level. You want to start seeing the world as your stage, learn how to influence large groups of people, just as easy as you influence one-on-one. That's your next level, right? Charisma on command and conversion on command is what we're looking for. So that's the whole basic package. We're also going to include the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program, the Stealth Instant Conversational Hypnosis Crash Course, and of course, you get that free VIP ticket to our next Virtual Healing Intensive scheduled for February 6th through the 8th, 2026. And if you want to use that 3-day VIP ticket for another 3-day training, I may do an introduction to energetics virtual training sometime between now and February, just to kind of get people primed and ready to go for the 16 seminar full program that we're going to be doing. It's going to be a deep dive. So if you're really serious about it, go ahead and do it. But go ahead and click your link right now. You can get everything I talked about. It's $13,579 value for just $797. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Test it for 60 days. You'll discover really, really quickly if this is going to be the right thing for you or not. The information's in the chat there, 858-282-4663, or email Moss or Mia at nlppower.com. And by all means, go ahead and click those links before the offer goes away. And if you click the link before I log off tonight, then of course I'll give you that extra unannounced bonus, the Stealth Selling Secrets Home Study course. Okay? All right. Let's go back to state control. Let me go ahead and exit out of this. So just for my edification, actually, I don't need the entire screen. I just need to end this. For my edification, how many of you have watched Killer Influence or attended the class or know what I mean when I talk about state control? Okay. So in our state control training is the best on the planet. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying it because I've looked at everybody else's stuff. And um, if you want to be functional fast, this is how you do it. So we started the webinar off with the idea that everything human beings do is in response to a feeling. It's either a feeling they want more of or a feeling they want a whole lot less of. We're going to state control as we define it is the ability to access, enter, or exit, or transition to any psycho-emotional state that we choose on demand in any situation or circumstance. It is a key skill because without state control, you lose the ability to deploy all your other skills. If your state control is weak, all of your other techniques get weak too. If your state control is strong, even if you have weak technique, your technique automatically gets stronger. It doesn't generalize the other way. If you have strong technique and weak state, you're actually making everything worse. So, and the cool thing about state control is that there's no top level to it. The more you engage in the practice, the more you keep working with these methods and these drills and these exercises, the more powerfully you expand your ability to use it and the degree of influence that you have. Okay. For most people, just the ability to not be triggered at the drop of a hat or get out of being triggered at the drop of a hat is worth the price of admission. But there's so much more you can do with this. And I can't even begin to, if I were to describe all the things you could do with this training, if you master it, you would think I'm full of shit. So I'm not going to tell you. I'm just going to give you the things that you can work with now. So we divide state control into two primary divisions. You have physiological state control and you have cognitive or volitional state control. This one distinction makes a huge difference because physiological state control is unbreakable state control. What do I mean by that? Your physiology controls your psychology. Let me say that two more times. Your physiology controls your psychology. For every psycho-emotional state that you can imagine or conceive of, there is a corresponding posture and breathing pattern that allows that state to manifest and grow and be expressed. If I can manipulate your physiology, I can control your emotional state. If I can manipulate your breathing, I can control and influence your emotional state. Consequently, if I go into a certain emotional state, my breathing and my posture will automatically change. Now, you'll get deep dive experiences this when you go through your Killer Influence course or you come to the training at the end of January. You will experience this directly. Okay? So the first part of your physiology or your state control training is all to do with posture and breathing and how to move from one state to another just by changing your posture and your breathing. So, for example, I'm going to go ahead and change my standing again. So I have to, there we go. All right. So if I stand with my shoulders square, and I take up a lot of space this way, I will start to go into a more authoritative, positive, charismatic state. Okay. If I slouch or I bend, my body will start to move me into a depressive state. Now, normally, um, I would just, I wouldn't even tell you this. I would just have you experience it, but I'm running out of time. So I need to make sure that we have the fundamentals. For every psycho-emotional state you can experience, there's a corresponding posture and breathing pattern that facilitates it. Okay. And it happens relatively quickly. If you want to get a little glimpse of the science behind what I'm explaining, there's a TED talk out there by a lady named Amy Cuddy. It's called Power Poses. I suggest you watch it. Dr. Cuddy did the hard science behind what I'm teaching you. We go way beyond what the science is doing. Okay. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Okay. There's a really, really powerful biochemical stimulus that happens when you change posture, when you change the way you breathe. The reason we teach physiological state control first is because it is the most bulletproof form of state control you can have. So we're going to do this exercise. Okay. Now, obviously, if you're driving or operating machinery, you shouldn't be doing this drill. But if you're in a safe place where you can do this, then you can do it. All right. So I want you to stand up. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to remember a time in your life when you saw something you really, really wanted, right? Like on a scale factor of 0 to 10, it was like a 27. And you decided you were going to get it no matter what. And you made a plan, you put that plan into operation, and no matter what got in your way, you went over, around, through, underneath, whatever. And the day comes where you just nailed it. You realize you got your goal. I want you to remember that moment of victory, that moment of exultation, of triumph, if you will. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to see what you were seeing when that moment was taking place. Hear what you were hearing when that moment was taking place. Smell and taste what you were smelling and tasting when that amazing thing was happening for you. Most importantly, I want you to feel what you were feeling. I want you to stand the way you were standing. And I want you to breathe the way you were breathing and just be in that moment of victory. Step into it and live it. First person, over and over and over again, right? Make sure you got it locked in. Stand the way you're standing. Breathe the way you're breathing. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Without changing a single thing about the way you're standing, without changing a single thing about the way you're breathing, summon up your will, keep your posture the same, keep your breathing the same, and as an act of will, try to feel bad. You may notice you can't do it. When you're satisfied that you can't do it, stop testing. Allow yourself to go fully into those feelings and just let them come back twice as strong. When you're happy with that, type in the chat what you discovered or what your body wanted to do when you tried to feel bad. Type it in the chat. Body wanted to keep feeling good. Okay. What else? Can you remember any bad feelings? Oh, okay. My body couldn't go there. Oh, isn't that interesting? You mean I had you summon up all of your willpower and your will couldn't override your body? Huh. Isn't that interesting? Because I told you to summon up your willpower, right? This is why physiological state control must be taught first. Most people believe that your mind, Agnes says, I couldn't get myself to feel any negative emotions. How many of you noticed that when you tried to feel bad, your body wanted to shift posture or breathing? But the moment you didn't let it, you went back to feeling good. Anybody? How many are still playing with this? Right? So here's my point. It doesn't matter what brain techniques you know to control your state if your body is saying something else. Okay? You must control the body in order to control the mind. Now, we're all taught, closing a loop here, we're all taught that the mind controls the body. If you're trained in hypnosis, if you're trained in NLP, holographic memory resolution, or any derivative, we're all taught that the mind controls the body. And that's true enough to be true in theory. In the abstract, the functional truth is that unless you are trained, what happens to your body will overwrite what's going on with your mind. The people who have the greatest ability to use their mind to influence their body are elite athletes, sometimes first responders, elite soldiers, special forces, yogis, high-level meditators, magicians, and not the magicians that pull rabbits out of hats, like real magicians. Why? Because they're trained. The average human being is not trained. Therefore, the opposite is true. The physiology controls the psychology. If I want to control how you think, all I have to do is control your body. And your brain will start to make default decisions based on that. Okay? When I'm teaching people advanced energy practices and advanced manifestation practices and advanced neuroplasticity, like evolving your nervous system, one of the very first things that we have to do is teach you how to feel good on demand. Because if we don't do that, you will go into a negative performance spiral and your physiology will be more animalistic. Right? You won't be able to access your higher faculties. This is one of the secrets held in plain sight by a lot of these hidden spiritual traditions and energetic traditions, is the accessing of the other energy centers and why state is so important. But for those of you who maybe played in those areas or studied or dabbled in those areas, have you ever noticed the emphasis that all of those older systems place on posture and breathing before what you do with your mind? So the idea here is physiology must come first. And if your physiology is bulletproof, then you can access all of your other techniques. But if your body's in chaos, your mind will follow it. And you will lose the ability to access your resources. Okay? You guys with me so far? If you're with me, type I'm with you in the chat. How can I use Qigong for street smarts? Oh, so many ways, Gabriel. So many ways. All right. Is this useful? Is this helpful? Okay. I'm going to give you one more state control drill. If you haven't clicked your links yet, please go ahead and do that so I can take this training even further with you in a couple of weeks. Because the killer influence training is where this goes on steroids. All right. Everybody stand up again. Now, this technique here is a bridging technique. And what that means is We're now going to bridge from physiologically driven or physiologically derived state control, and we're going to merge it with our cognitive or volitional state control. Remember that in order to access your imagination, you must use your cognition, right? If the nervous system goes into chaos, you can't access intentional high level thinking. To quote one of my instructors, your butt puckers up and your brains drop out. We don't want that. Okay. So here's one of the drills I'm going to give you today. And I want you to do this drill every day until I see you again. Okay. Every day. I want you to close your eyes. Remember a time in your life when you felt the most amazing, thrilling, fulfilling, satisfying pleasure ever. And I don't care what it was. I don't care how many substances you were using, how many state lines you crossed, how many laws you, I don't care. I'm not the pleasure police. All I care about is that when you remember that experience, it's the most pleasurable, joyful, wonderful, oh my God, this is great feeling ever. I want you to close your eyes and see what you were seeing in that moment. Hear what you were hearing in that moment. Smell and taste what you were smelling and tasting in that moment. Stand, if you were standing, the way you were standing in that moment. Breathe the way you were breathing in that moment. And let those feelings come flooding in. And I'd like you to notice if there's a place in your body where those amazing feelings start, where they grow, where they spread from. Take a moment, notice where you feel that, and point to it. First impression. Look at it with your inner eyes and notice that there's a color or a series of colors connected to those amazing feelings. What color or colors might that be for you, first impression? Whatever it is, I want you to imagine a beautiful ball of that color floating above your head. I'd like you to notice how the feelings in your body shift and change as with every breath you take and every beat of your heart, that ball of energy begins to grow, begins to expand, begins to fill the entire room from floor to ceiling, from wall to wall, and all points in between. Notice how it wraps itself around you like an amazing blanket of pleasure. A cocoon, a shield, a suit of armor, insulating you, protecting you from all bummers, all downers, real or imagined, while at the same time flooding your mind, flooding your body, flooding your spirit with everything it most wants, everything it most needs in an infinite, ever expanding, and unlimited supply. And when you know you've got that, breathe those amazing colors through your entire being. Let it fill you up like water fills up a bottle, like fluid fills up a test tube, like hot air or helium fills up a balloon. Anchor it in so fully, so completely. No force in the universe can turn it off or take it away, not even you. And when you realize it's true, test it. Try to turn it off. Try to take it away. Try to imagine some force outside of you trying to take it away and notice what happens instead. Take all the time you need to feel complete. When you're satisfied, and only when you're satisfied, you can go ahead and stop testing. Now your eyes are open. Notice how good you feel. And type your experiences in the chat. Tell me what happened. Tell me what you discovered. And he says, happy, heaven on earth. Now, just that exercise alone will make you up to 30% better at everything. That one little drill that we're finishing the webinar with can make you up to 30% better, smarter, more talented, more persuasive, more charismatic, if you practice. Gabriel says, I'm going to practice this forever. There he says, should we have a replay of that? You mean this seminar? Yeah, there'll be a replay, right? So that's about all I have time for, folks. If you haven't clicked the link yet, when would now be a good time? https://www.nlppower.com/go, right? nlppower.com/go, don't you know? Let's make sure our YouTubers are not being left out. Let me just check on this. Uh, can we have somebody post the link for our YouTubers? I don't see it. Yeah. All right. And he says, I love that one. When would now be a great time? I live this stuff, guys. This is the skills I'm sharing with you have changed the course of my life. They've allowed me to live a life of exploration and adventure. And I want them to do the same for you. I really do. Right? There's too much here. There's too much power in the world for me to keep it to myself. Right? Lily says, thank you. Such an honor to hear and see you live after consuming your online content. Happiest New Year, and I'm looking forward to all the great info. Namyo Renge Kyo. Okay, thank you for that. All right, guys. In the words of the immortal Carol Burnett, I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just got started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long. Goodbye, my friends. Click those links. I'll see you on the other side. Take care. Love you.